You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts.
All right, Black and White Sports supporters. Well, I got to tell you, for my favorite active coach in the NFL, I mean, my favorite coach of all time would be Bill Walsh. The greatest coach of all time is Bill Belichick. But my favorite active coach is Jim Harbaugh. All right, now, look, I'm a Michigan fan and I'm a 49ers fan. So I've had a lot of Harbaugh over the last 15, 16 years, right? And somebody asked me not too long ago, would you take Kyle Shanahan or Jim Harbaugh? And I said, Jim Harbaugh at record speed. I think if Jed York hadn't have monkeyed that whole thing up with some clown show kind of ownership, the Niners would have already won a Super Bowl ring because Jim Harbaugh would have hung around. We would have won one. Those teams, I loved how they were built. Run game, hard-nosed defense, knock your head off defense. Same kind of game he brought to Michigan. Well, he's now been named in a lawsuit involving a guy, and I wanted to make sure that everybody had at least some idea of who this guy is before we jumped into the lawsuit. This guy's name is Matt Weiss. He is the former co-offensive coordinator in 2022 for the Wolverines when they finished 13-1 and played in the college football playoff. He was fired in 2023 during an investigation of his computer. He had spent more than a decade with the Baltimore Ravens. So, and Jim Harbaugh and John both called the allegations against this guy shocking. All right, and you may be like, what allegations? Well, they're not great. They're not great at all. So, NFL coach Jim Harbaugh was added Friday to a lawsuit against the University of Michigan and former assistant football coach who is accused of hacking into computer accounts of college athletes across the U.S. to look for intimate photos. Holy shit, this guy's a total scumbag. Attorneys claim Harbaugh, who was Michigan's coach, and others knew that Matt Weiss was seen viewing private information on a computer in December of 2022, but still allowed him to continue working as a co-offensive coordinator in a national playoff game roughly a week later. Michigan Athletic Director Ward Manuel and other officials were also added to the lawsuit in federal court in Detroit. Quote, the university's delay in meaningful protective action until after a high-stakes game sends a clear message. Student welfare was secondary, said Parker Steiner, who is the lead attorney in the class action lawsuit arising from criminal investigation of Weiss. Well, the attorney wants Jim Harbaugh's name in there because it makes it more high-profile, too. Let's not lose sight of that fact. Messages seeking comment from Manuel Harbaugh, who is the current head coach of the Chargers, were not immediately returned Friday. Separately, Weiss has been charged with identity theft and unauthorized computer access from 2015 to 2023. The indictment says he got access to social media, email, and cloud storage accounts of more than 2,000 college athletes. That is crazy. As well as more than 1,300 students or alumni from schools across the U.S. to find private images primarily of women. Oh, this guy's an ultimate scumbag. He has pleaded not guilty. Quote, Harbaugh implemented a basic oversight of his staff. Plaintiffs in the case would have been protected against predators such as Weiss. The updated lawsuit says, instead, Weiss was a highly compensated asset that was promoted by and within the football program from which the position he was able to and did target female student athletes. I have a hard time believing, knowing Jim Harbaugh's belief set, his moral and value set, that he actually knew what this guy was doing. I don't buy that. I don't buy that for a second. I just don't. Jim Harbaugh is a very religious guy, and he's a good family man, so I just don't know that I buy that. The lawsuit says a staff member saw Weiss viewing private information at the Schembechler Hall, headquarters for the football team, around December 21st, 2022, and reported it before Michigan played TCU in a playoff game days later on December 31st. Weiss was fired a few weeks later in January 2023 during an investigation of his computer use. Earlier this year, after charges were filed, Harbaugh told reporters he didn't know anything about Weiss's troubles until after the playoff game. He said the allegations were, quote, shocking. Goes on to talk about this guy working on John's coaching staff before Michigan. The lawsuit says Weiss' university computer had encryption software that had to be disabled by an external vendor as part of the investigation. Authorities disclosed in April that thousands of intimate photos and videos were found on his electronic devices and cloud storage accounts. Jesus. So this guy was a total scumbag. Is it possible that whoever found him, the information just never made its way all the way back to Harbaugh? I mean, I could see maybe somebody trying to hold that back from him getting that information. I just don't know that I buy it. You know, I mean, Harbaugh, John, and Jim have obviously very good reputations going back forever. I mean, you never know, but I just tend to doubt it. No doubt this guy sounds like a total ass clown. He sounds like a total scumbag, a creep, if there ever was one. But no doubt, adding Jim Harbaugh, and I would assume they're going to, I guess they might end up adding John and the Ravens. I don't know if, it depends on whether or not they can prove that he did anything while he was working for the Ravens using one of their computers or at their facility. The issue here is they're saying they caught him doing it, I guess, on Michigan's time at Michigan's facility in Bo Schembechler's hall. Wow, that's absolutely crazy. You know, one of the things I like about Jim Harbaugh is he's obviously got a very different kind of personality, eccentric, you know, very gung-ho. I watched a video of him a while back, and there was I believe it was a policeman that came to a tree that was across the road right after a bad storm and at night. And all of a sudden, this vehicle pulled up, and Jim Harbaugh got out. And he helped this officer. They, moved the tree out of the road. You know? I mean, it was pretty wild. Just like a regular guy in the neighborhood. You know? I don't know why Jim Harbaugh reminds me a little bit of Clark W. Griswold, but he kind of does. Like, the quintessential family man. But he lived in an RV. Him and Greg Roman, the former offensive coordinator for the Niners, who's the offensive coordinator, I think, now for the Chargers, they both were living in RVs, they're in California. They may still be. Well, while they're both coaching the Chargers. It's wild. It really is. Tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.